Good afternoon, everyone. Our topic this time is MAS 1.2.3 or standard costing. Now, we begin with the manufacturing cost flow first. You might be familiar with actual costing, normal costing, and standard costing. And the type of cost to be accumulated in these three types of valuation. You can see there that under the standard costing, all elements of manufacturing cost, direct materials, direct labor, and overhead, the type of cost that we accumulate is the standard cost or the predetermined cost. So, sa standard costing po, materials, labor, overhead, these are predetermined cost. In contrast to actual costing, na lahat naman ay actual cost, and also in normal costing, direct materials and direct labor actual, but for the overhead, it is also predetermined. Yun pong predetermined or budgeted based on the normal capacity. Now, we will focus on standard costing. So, in this type of valuation method, ladies and gentlemen, the standard cost of direct materials, the standard cost of direct labor, and the standard cost of factory overhead are being applied to work in process. So, in this inventory of work in process, ang ina-accumulate natin dyan or nakadebit niyan ay standard cost. And eventually, after the production process, what we transfer is of course yung galing sa work in process na yun ay standard cost, standard manufacturing cost, and then eventually to cost of goods sold. So, in standard costing, ladies and gentlemen, standard, or estimated, or predetermined. Now, why first, this standard costing is permitted under pass number 2. So this type of costing system is permissible as a technique in the measurement of cost of inventory as stated in PAS number 2. In addition to that, because we are talking about management accounting and we are talking about tools and techniques for management to be used in planning and controlling, for performance evaluation and for decision making. And in fact, nasa tools and techniques tayo for planning and controlling. Ito pong standard cost or standard costing is a system that can be used for planning and for controlling. How is this used in planning and how is this used in controlling, or how is the standard costing system used to control operations? If you know MBO and MBE, or management by objectives and management by exception, management by objectives means, or in MBO means, the company or the organization must be guided by objectives, or must be guided by plans. The objectives are the plans actually. In a standard costing system, the standard cost serves as the objective. It serves as the plan. It serves as the benchmark, and the actual cost will be compared to that objective. That's basically setting objective, which is a planning function. But just imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if there is no standard cost or there is no objective, there is no plan, there is no goal kung anong cost dapat ang ma-incur. The operation might be wasteful or magastos, or yung mga resources will be squandered. Diba? So, pag nagbigay ka ngayon ng objective na, o mga production employees, mga production supervisors, the cost that should be incurred to manufacture the products ay 6 per unit. Although there is objective, there is a plan. Pati, yun ang role ng standard cost. The standard cost serves as plan or serves as objective. Comes now the performance evaluation or comparison of the actual and the standard. Sinabi ko kanina, yung standard magiging basis yon, magiging benchmark yon pag nag-obtain tayo ng feedback or feedback reporting process. Sa MBE or management by exception, this concept of management means na the management must focus its attention on the results which did not proceed according to the plan. Kaya ang tawag MBE. If there is exception, or if there is deviations from plan, or if there is variance, management should focus its attention doon sa mga variance. Yun ang parang alert system, ladies and gentlemen. Kasi, to focus attention on the results na eksaktong-eksakto sa plano or sa objective or eksaktong-eksakto sa standard cost, that's waste of time. So, pagdating sa variance analysis, dyan pumapasok yung management by exception. Yung standard costing, pag nag-compare na tayo ng actual and the standard, kukontrol natin yung operation dyan eh. Meron tayong feedback mechanism dyan. Malalaman natin kaagad kung saan yung problema. It's like, you have a car, you key in the car, you need to start it, and it started. There's no problem with that. There is no variance. But if you key in the car, and then it did not start, there is a variance. So the driver or the owner will have to check. Will have to check the engine and the oil or the fuel. Eh, may variance kasi dun eh. So pag may variance, ladies and gentlemen, yun ang red flags kumbaga or warning or indicator or alert na sa aspect na to, meron tayong dapat na i-investigate. May variance. Kasi yung mga variance niyan, ladies and gentlemen, baka inefficiency yan. Naaksaya ang resources diyan. And especially if these variances recur paulit ng paulit, lalong maaksaya yung company resources. So that's actually management by exception. That's variance analysis. MBO, that's setting standards. At yan ang na-achieve ng management sa pag-adapt ng standard costing system. Okay? Ang pinag-uusapan natin ay tools and technique for planning and controlling. At isa po ito, itong standard costing na technique sa planning and controlling. Okay? Ngayon, the advantages, the purposes, basahin nyo na lang po dun sa handouts. But of course, you must know that the primary purpose or the primary purpose or objective of standard costing is that of for planning and controlling. Diba? MBO and MBE. Okay? So, the other techniques or the other concepts or the other points to be considered and to be remembered in standard costing system are in your handouts, and please go over it. The formula for variance analysis are written there. You can just simply memorize it, and of course you must be able to apply it in solving problems. Let us now illustrate standard costing and variance analysis, computation of variance using problem number 1. We take up first standard materials and then labor or materials variance and labor variances. Problem number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, here is the standard cost for ABC company, which manufactures plastic toys. For materials, the standard quantity is 1/2 pound of materials, and the standard cost is 4 pesos per pound, and that makes 2 per unit of output or 2 per unit of the product. Plus, yung pag-set po ng standard ay mayroong standard quantity tapos may standard na price, no? Sa element ng manufacturing cost, material, labor, overhead, standard quantity times standard price, that's the standard cost. Okay? So the materials standard quantity is for every unit of output, 1/2 pound. The standard price for a pound of materials is 4 per pound. Yung 4 na yan po yung standard price ng materials. Kaya, to determine the standard cost of materials per unit of output, you have 2 per unit. 1/2 pound times 4. Okay? Yan po. For labor, the standard quantity of labor is 12 minutes. And the standard rate is 16 per hour. So, 12 minutes is 12 over 60 of an hour, or that's actually 0.2 hour. And therefore, the standard labor cost per unit of product is 3.2. Ulitin ko, ang standard cost ng product, binubuo ng dalawa. Pag nagseset ng standard, set the standard quantity, then set the standard price for that input. Standard quantity of input times the standard cost or the standard price of the input equals the standard cost of material or labor, depending kung anong element, per unit of the output. Kasi, antimano, standard cost ng elements ng manufacturing cost. Bago tayo mapunta sa ultimate cost object, which is the product, doon natin makukompute yung standard cost ng product after setting the standard cost of the inputs. So the standard can be measured in terms of the input and in terms of the output. Okay? Yeah. Ultimately, of course, we are computing the standard cost for the output. Alright. So yan po, ano? During October, 50,000 toys were produced. And the purchasing agent bought 29,000 pounds of material at 4.15 per pound. The payroll is there, 166.80 on 10,300 direct labor hours. And during the month, 25,300 pounds of materials were used in the production. Now let us go to the computation of the materials variance and the labor cost variance. Plus, kanina nabanggit ko na yung standard cost ay we set that into standard cost of the input, ano? A standard quantity of input and then standard price for the input. In general, ganon. Kahit anong element ng manufacturing cost, ang standard cost is the combination or the breakdown of the standard quantity and the standard price. For example, in materials, yung variance ay yung tinatawag na purchase price variance at saka quantity variance. Literally, ibig sabihin ng variance, difference. Eh bakit ba nagkaroon ng difference yung total standard cost na nakadebit sa work in process for materials at yung actual cost? Ang mag-i-explain nun, dalawa. Baka yung input quantity may variance. Mas maraming nagamit or mas konting nagamit para dun sa actual output. Or, dahil sa price, yung actual purchase price differs with the standard price. So, pag sinabing purchase price variance, actually, difference in the price, actual price and standard price, times the actual quantity purchase. And then, quantity variance is actual quantity used minus standard quantity that should have been used times standard price. Sige, isa-isahin po natin. Yun pong price variance, dalawang methods yung pag-compute niyan. Either at the time of purchase or at the time of issuance ng materials. Between the two, preferred method is price variance computed at the time of purchase. So whenever sinabing price variance without any qualification, ang kukumputin nyo lagi dyan based on the quantity purchased. Unless sinabi price usage variance, doon lang sa quantity used. Ulitin ko, there are two methods of isolating or computing the price variance. First method, which is the preferred method, ay price variance determined when materials are purchased. So that's when purchased method. Then the other one is when issued. So the formula is actual price minus standard price times actual quantity purchased. So in the case of ABC, the actual price is $4.15 per pound. The standard price per pound is 4. So $4.15 minus 4 pesos per unit pound times quantity purchased, which is 29,000 pounds. And that will give us 4,350 unfavorable. Unfavorable. Now to record that, here's the entry. Debit raw materials inventory, 116,000, and note that yan po ay recorded at standard. Pag standard costing, ang dinedebit nyo sa inventory cost class, yung standard cost, standard quantity ng materials purchased times standard price, yan ang nakadebit sa raw materials inventory. Credit accounts payable, of course, for the actual liability, and materials price variance 4,350 unfavorable. Pag ang variance ay unfavorable, yan po ay debit. Pag favorable, yan po ay credit. Then, pag ang materials price variance naman is based on the quantity of issued materials, or yan po yung price variance computed at issuance of material at the time of purchase, hindi pa kinocompute yung price variance. Kailan po computein? Kapag in-issue na yung materials. Pag in-issue yung materials, sabay yung pag-record ng price variance at quantity variance. So, ito lang yung entry to record purchase. Wala pang naka-record na price variance. Okay? Ngayon, at issuance, we will compute quantity variance. Difference in quantity used and the standard quantity that should have been used. The standard quantity, ladies and gentlemen, is always based on the actual production. So for example, if 50,000 toys were actually made and the standard quantity is 1/2 pound, the standard quantity of materials that should have been used sa pag-produce ng 50,000 toys ay 25,000. Ayan. Ulitin ko, class, ha. Ang pag-compute ng standard quantity laging nakabase sa actual output. Ang pinag-uusapan nating standard quantity, class, ay standard quantity ng input. Okay? Ayan. So, standard quantity of materials 25,000. Ilan ang nagamit? Ayun, 25,300. Ang dami palang nagamit. So, quantity variance or usage variance, o kung minsan, materials efficiency variance ang tawag dyan. Actual quantity minus standard quantity, 25,300 minus 25,000 times the standard price na 4 pesos per pound. We have this 1,200 unfavorable materials quantity variance. And here is the entry to record that. Debit, work in process, standard times standard in class. 25,000 standard quantity times standard price. Tandaan ninyo sa work in process, standard input times standard cost of the input, yan ang total standard cost to be debited sa work in process. Kaya 100,000. Debit materials quantity variance 1,2. Then credit raw materials inventory. Ang actual na nagamit na inventory kasi, raw materials, 25,300. Ang standard cost nun, 101,200. Kasi 25,300 times 4. Pero, hindi yun ang naka-charge sa work in process dahil ang dapat na standard doon na quantity, 25,000 pounds times 4. Ayun po. Credit, debit yung materials, quantity, variance. So, ang magiging ending inventory ng ano dyan, raw materials, ito po. 116,000 minus 101,200. Yung difference na yon, ladies and gentlemen, ito po, 14,800. Standard cost yan. Standard cost. Diba? Yan din yung 29 pounds minus 25,300 times 4. 14,800. Ano? Standard cost. Pero pagdating sa method na to, sa when materials are price variance is computed at the time of issuance of materials. Ang kukomputin nating price variance kasi based on the used quantity lang. Kaya yan 3,795. 415 minus 4 times 25,300. Salip na 29,000 pounds na quantity purchase. Kaya yung price variance natin dito, 3,795 lang. Compared kanina, 4,350. Asan yung difference? Nasa raw materials inventory pa. Tingnan nyo ang ending raw materials, 15,355. Ang difference niyan, class, yung 15,355 minus 14,800, ayan po, 555. Yan po yung price variance na nasa inventory cost pa. Nasa raw materials. Ibig sabihin, yung inefficiency ng purchasing nandun sa inventory cost. Kaya nga, mas preferred na at the time of purchase, ina-isolate na yung variance. Di ba? Nandyan pa yung ibang variance sa inventory. Tingnan nyo itong difference nito. 4,350 minus this. Yan din po yun. Yung 555. Kasi yan yung variance na hindi pa na-isolate o hindi pa na-record. Nandun pa sa raw materials inventory. Kaya mas mataas yung cost ng raw materials inventory. Okay? Now, if you are using that method, yung price variance computed at the time of issuance, the difference of the actual materials cost and the standard materials cost that's the total variance ng raw materials, and that will always be equal to the sum of materials price variance, price usage variance in particular, and quantity variance. So look at that. 3795 times plus 12, that's 4995 actually. But you cannot do that reconciliation if you are using this, because in here, ang basis mo dyan, quantity purchase, but in here, ang basis natin dyan ay quantity used. Kanina, ang basis natin dito sa issuance of materials method, ang basis natin dito, quantity used, ang basis din dyan, quantity used, kaya maibabalansin natin yung total na variance dito sa difference ng actual and standard. Kasi baka mag-reconcile kayo eh. So, that is only possible dito. But of course, you can determine the difference kung bakit may diferensya sa dalawang variance. Okay? I hope that is clear, class. That's for the materials variance. Now we proceed to labor. Now for labor, there are two types of variances for labor cost variance. Labor rate and then labor efficiency. Actually, counterpart niyan, tulad kanina, no? Kasi sabi ko kanina kasi, ang variance, pag i-analyze mo, it's a factor of quantity and then the price. Price variance for materials, katumbas yan ng labor rate variance. Labor efficiency variance, katumbas yan ng quantity variance. But in here, wala tayong method sa pag-isolate ng rate variance na at the time of purchase, tapos at the time of issuance. Kasi, yung materials, ini-inventory yung raw materials bago gamitin. But here, in labor, we do not have inventory, of course, of the labor. Labor is hired as it is used. Kaya yung ating rate variance ay isa lang yung method, syempre. Okay. So the formula to compute labor rate is, or labor rate variance ay actual rate minus standard rate times actual hours. Then for labor efficiency, actual hours times standard rate. And again, to determine standard hours, that is always based on actual production. So kung standard time per unit of output is 12 minutes and 50,000 toys were produced, ang standard time for that is 10,000. Ito po. And the actual rate for labor, because it's not given, the total labor cost actual is given, of course, we can compute for the actual rate by dividing the total payroll, direct labor payroll, divided by the total hours. So we have 15.6. Ang standard rate, 16. Therefore, the rate variance is, ito po, 15.6 minus 16 times 10,300, that is 4,120 favorable. For the labor efficiency, actual hours ay 10.3 minus 10,000 standard times standard rate na 16. So that's 4,800 unfavorable. The entry to record that is here. Debit work in process 160,000. Debit labor efficiency variance 48. Credit labor rate variance for 120 and credit wages payable 160,680. Ito pong 160,000 na work in process debit, standard hours times standard rate. Standard time is 10,000 times 16, yan po yun. Then pag ang variance unfavorable, tulad ng nasabi ko kanina, debit. Pag favorable, credit. Credit to wages payable, of course, for the actual direct labor cost. Now, dito po, you can do the reconciliation method because wala tayong dalawang method. Parehong base yan sa actual hours. Look at this. The total actual DL cost is 166.80. But, the amount of standard DL cost na naka-charge sa work in process ay 160,000. So, the total DL cost variance is 680 unfavorable. If you're going to analyze that 680 unfavorable DL cost variance, that is broken down or analyzed into ito po, 4120 and 48. So, the sum of that, favorable for 120 and unfavorable for 8, that will net to 680 unfavorable. So, labor rate variance plus labor efficiency equals total DL cost variance. That's useful class for reconstruction purposes. Okay? Yan. So, that completes materials and labor variance and then yung pagre-record, In our next video recorded lecture, we shall discuss factory overhead variance and the mix variance and yield variance for materials and labor.